Hello there, welcome to episode 79 of Never Mind the Bullens. It's your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. I'm Mike Peters. This is going to be our last episode before Christmas. What with the Leicester game being postponed. We should have broken out the Everton Santa hat for this, but I don't know where it is actually. I hadn't thought of that. That's a production mistake for the vodcast. The podcast listener won't give a monkeys whether I'm wearing a hat or not. But there you go. Yes, with the Leicester game being postponed, we've got a bit of a break before we get into the festive programme. Obviously with Burnley and then Newcastle and then Brighton over the course of that week between Boxing Day and the January the 2nd. And that postponement actually probably will work to our advantage, gives us time to get players fit, obviously, and means that when we play the game later in the season, fingers crossed, we might have somewhere closer to a full-strength team, certainly with the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin back, etc., and potentially a new left-back in the mix. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But obviously, the Chelsea game, I mentioned in the last episode, I think, we weren't expecting very much on Thursday night. Chelsea, obviously, an exceptional team, challenging for the title. Their form has stuttered ever so slightly of late, but they are still getting results. And went into it with, very little sort of hope in terms of no Richarlison, Solomon Rondon, etc. Seamus Coleman obviously not fit. I mean, it says everything. That we had 6 players on the bench on Thursday night, and really, Seamus Coleman and Alan were bench warmers, very literal sense, because they clearly were not going to play any part in the game, and that was borne out by the substitutions that were made, where it was like Lewis Dobbin and Tyler Onyango and Jean-Philippe Gbamin that came on. Now, I've been obviously moaned about the substitutions at times, so let's do many a time over the last several weeks, but I'll deal with that now. To me, it's actually a positive that these young lads who we've been sort of crying out to be given games, and we don't want to see a repeat of the Thierry Small situation where talented young players leaving the club, even though with Thierry Small, maybe, obviously his financial demands were, and his demands for playing time and all the rest of it were not in keeping with where his development as a footballer is actually at. But, John Joe Kenny brought out of cryogenic storage to play it right back. Great to see Jared Branthwaite getting a game and obviously getting the equaliser as well. I mean, absolutely fantastic. And his post-match interview was wonderful. He was absolutely buzzing, and rightly so. But obviously had to change the setup of the team to accommodate all the players that we didn't have available, and to try and make sure that we were at least competitive in some way and tried to stifle Chelsea. That's all it was ever going to be. It was going to be sort of spoiling tactics throughout. I remember, if you cast my mind back to the game there last year, where we lost 2-0 and were comfortably beaten, and we just went, well, there you go. We our first 11 is, at that point, was probably as good as theirs. We certainly could compete, but it was just the strength in depth on the bench that they have that we don't have, and it was even more demonstrated on Thursday night, obviously with the amount of injuries they've got and the paucity of the squad, that we just thought, well, this is, and our record is so poor, having not won there since 1994. Days when I had a full head of hair and didn't have a beard. Although we've got a number of draws there down the years, we've also taken some absolute hidings as well. That anything we could get out of the game was a bonus. So therefore, that point absolutely was a bonus. But a lot of people obviously extolling the virtues of Anthony Gordon, how well he played on the night, and we were being cut open left, right and centre during the first half. I didn't see the first 15 minutes. I was heading from one gig to another from between Liverpool and Manchester, but got it on my iPad to watch most of it, or at least half watch most of it. But what's pleasing is the fact that we kept going. We kept plugging away. And it reminded me of a game 20 years ago that I went to at Highfield Road, where I think it was the first time that Kevin Campbell was Everton captain. I think the first black captain that Everton had ever had. So a momentous day in from that point of view, but also the fact that we basically had no players available. And it was basically, if you could stand and you could kick a football, you were basically on the pitch. And we put in a vociferous support, as there was at Stamford Bridge on Thursday night, and we put in a brilliant performance and won the game by 3-1. Nicholas Alexanderson put in one of his, well, arguably his best performance in an Everton shirt. There weren't very many, but it reminded me very much of that, of being sort of right on our uppers and very much a kind of backs to the wall, had to come out fighting sort of performance. And Thursday night was evidence of that. Michael Keane, many people talking up his performance, and it's great to see him putting in that type of leadership performance as well, because he needs to. That's where he's at in his career. He's not a kid anymore. He's played a lot of games, not just for us, but for Burnley as well. He's an England international, 27, 28 years of age. He should be showing those leadership qualities and leading the team. No doubt about that. So it's a point. And what was great was the sort of the togetherness of the players and obviously the manager after the game. Obviously between the Crystal Palace game and the Chelsea game, Richarlison came out and said, Rafa was right to take me off at Crystal Palace because I wasn't fit and da-da-da. And I know that they have had first-hand accounts of some of those that were in the away section at Palace of how poisonous the atmosphere was at times in the away section. Understandably, because the performance and the decisions were really poor and difficult to fathom. But I think with Richarlison, he's seen that. I've been a piece written this week about if you take Rafa on, you're going to lose as a player, and we're seeing that borne out with the Lucas Digne situation. Richarlison's seen that, decided, you know what, he was right to protect me. I wasn't fit. Blah blah blah. The situation will be dealt with. He'll move on. Rafa Benitez seems to be a manager that's very much about the team rather than, and the individuals just have to fit within that. And if they don't like it, well, then there's the door. And the Lucas Digne situation, as that has come out, is a tremendous shame, really, because he's been one of our best players for the last, since he came back in 2018, and to see his Everton career sort of clearly heading towards its denouement on a very unfortunate sort of run of form and a spat with the manager because he's not been in great form this season. I know he's been playing a slightly different position, but even playing slightly more defensively, he's not been, or having to focus on his defensive duties first rather than being an attacking threat. His performances just haven't been at it at all. So, I mean, we've moaned many a time on this podcast and in many other organs of Everton press and media about Everton's profligacy in the transfer market and our just wastefulness in terms of our spending over the last 5 years. And you have to say, on the face of it, if we can sell Lucas Digne for more money than we paid for him, which we inevitably will, because what he cost us 18 million, we're probably going to get 30 for that, for a player that's 28 heading towards 29, and we're getting a player in who is 22 years of age and is just over 20 million euros, so it's going to be cheaper again. That actually is really, really good business. It doesn't solve a problem in terms of strength in depth or anything like that, but you have to say it's good business. This guy's a Ukrainian international. He's obviously no mug, Vitaly Michalenko, but that deal seems to be done, and it seems to be that Lucas Digne will head out, and if that improves the atmosphere in the dressing room and gives the manager one less headache and it's better for the team, all things considered, and he can play the way that Rafa Benitez wants him to play in that position, then that is a good thing. Like I said, shame to see Lucas Digne go. I don't necessarily want him to go. I think he's got a tremendous amount of quality football left in him because he's still, the good side of 30. But ultimately, we've got to, there is no iron team, is there? And no one man is bigger than that team. And if that's what needs to happen, then so be it. So there's things to ponder as we head into the festive period. Looking at our run of games, this is a chance for us to try and build a little bit of form. Obviously, Burnley really struggling this season. Newcastle couldn't beat a carpet, although they did beat us at Goodison last season. So that is an absolutely guaranteed must-win game for us to try and start to climb back up into the top half of the table. Obviously, then Brighton, and then we've got Norwich and all the rest of it coming after Christmas. They are games that we absolutely have to start picking up some serious points. Really, out of those next 15 points, we need to get 10. But obviously with the Leicester game being postponed, obviously that adjust things slightly with obviously the FA Cup game in the middle of that as well. So things to consider, things to look forward to, things to regret, things to ponder, as we inevitably will, as we all got our Everton-based Christmas presents. I'm sure we've all got some of them, haven't we? If you're an Everton fan, you're going to get something Everton-related for Christmas. There is guaranteed. So enjoy opening your presents. Enjoy your little break from the stresses of being an Evertonian for the next week or so. Have yourself a very Merry Christmas. If you want to get in touch, at NMTVPod on Twitter, nmtvpod@gmail.com on the email, or leave a voicemail on the podcast description. This has been a Top Content production, and until the next time, Merry Christmas, and come on you Blues.